Stadiums are the most fundamental aspect of Beyblade and has been since 1999. Between Hasbro and Takara Tomy, there have been hundreds of stadiums varying from small, cheap plastic buckets all the way up to the pro-grade, tournament-approved stadiums. Every stadium has their own unique aspect which can completely change the game, and in Beyblade X, those small, seemingly insignificant changes in the stadium can completely turn a battle, changing how you launch and how you play. And in today's video, we're going to be going over the three main stadiums used in Beyblade X and how each of their varying differences and small changes in the stadium itself can completely impact how you play. In all technicality, Beyblade X does have 4 stadiums that have been released so far between Takara Tomy and Hasbro. However, 3 of them are used in official competitions around the world. Meanwhile, one, the legendary Bucket Stadium, is used primarily for home use. Throughout Hasbro's history, Hasbro has had a stellar history when it comes to releasing a variety of different stadiums for Beyblade, dating all the way back to the Plastic Gen and even most notably the Burst generation, making stadiums based on the anime and making them very functional and very useful in real life. Now, amongst all the stadiums Hasbro has released, Hasbro is best known for releasing and mass producing the Bucket Stadium. Now, the Bucket Stadiums are a very cheap and mass-produced version of an actual functioning stadium. However, these Bucket Stadiums hold no value whatsoever for those who participate in tournament events or other competitive competitions when it comes to Beyblade. Now, the only thing that separates the Hasbro's Xtreme Bucket Stadium and compared to the other Bucket Stadiums previously released by Hasbro is that the Hasbro's Xtreme Bucket Stadium does give you the same and almost the exact same functionality as the standard Xtreme Stadium from both Hasbro and Takara Tomy. Now, because of this, I do like to refer to the Bucket Stadium for Beyblade X as the training grounds. This stadium is great to be able to practice a variety of different launch techniques, as well as kind of get yourself familiar with the way the Beyblade X system works. So if you're just getting into Beyblade X and you have yet to purchase a Xtreme Stadium either from Takara Tomy or from Hasbro, and just kind of want to test it out and get a feel for it, getting the Bucket Stadium, a cheap alternative to your standard Xtreme Stadium, is a great alternative for that. And now we are on to the actual main 3 stadiums used in competitive Beyblade, and the main stadiums that you are going to want to look out for and train for. And this very first stadium is going to be the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium. Now, the big difference between the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium, which is an almost exact replica of the Takara Tomy Xtreme Stadium, is that the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium does have a different shape as well as a different size. Now, this size difference and this shape does play a very pivotal part in how this stadium actually functions, meaning that launch techniques used in the Takara Tomy's Xtreme Stadium may not necessarily work in the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium. Now, the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium is specifically designed to kind of limit and minimize the amount of stamina battles that will take place, meaning bays will have a less of a chance to be able to kind of spin around the other bay, draw out stamina, and draw out the duration of the battle. Furthermore, the way the stadium is simply shaped as a rectangle rather than a square, this makes it so the extreme line, your accelerator rail for Beyblade X, is also shaped a little bit differently. Now, because of this, the extreme line is more ovalish rather than more of a circle. And because of this simple shape and the simple change in this Xtreme Stadium, bays that hit that extreme line going top speed, full speed early on in the battle do have a tendency of being self-destructive, bursting themselves, wringing themselves out, completely botching the entire battle, and essentially giving the battle away for free to your opponent. And this is where the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium, the Takara Tomy Xtreme Stadium, completely differ. Because of this change and that self-destructive nature of the stadium shape, launching attack types is a completely different ballgame than if you were to launch an attack type in the Xtreme Stadium by Takara Tomy. Here, attack types are going to be needed to launch more at an angle in comparison to the Takara Tomy's Xtreme Stadium. Now, launching at an angle does kind of preserve the stamina a little bit more and allows for the bays to kind of settle down a little bit from their overpowered launch, making them catch that extreme line a little bit easier, grip it, and get yourself an extreme finish rather than completely throwing the game away by self-destruction. Now, when it comes to launching any of the balance type bays or stamina bays, you're going to have a very similar problem, most particularly when it comes to your stamina type bays. Due to the nature of a Stamina Type Bey in Beyblade X and having a very low burst resistance, a lot of times when a Stamina Bey is launched with an over or an excessive amount of power in the launch, that Bey could easily graze that extreme line, and in most cases will touch that extreme line, not even provide an extreme dash, and can even burst itself with that simple touch. So in regards to the low mobility ratio in the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium with a smaller battle circumference, launching a Stamina Type Bey at full power might not necessarily be the greatest thing that you can do. Furthermore, launching it completely flat, which is something you're going to want to do in the Takara Tomy Xtreme Stadium, is not necessarily something you're going to want to do in the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium. When it comes to the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium, launching at an angle for a Stamina Type Bey, very similar to the way you are going to launch a defensive Type Bey in Beyblade X, is going to be the best option for the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium. This allows for your Stamina Type Bey to kind of stay in that inner battle circle right in the middle, as well as retain some of the stamina, keeping it away from the extreme line and the accelerator rail. Now, balance types are some of the hardest Beys to control when it comes to the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium. Much like that of the attack type and the stamina type, you're going to almost always want to launch your balance type Bey in the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium at an angle. The only exception to the balance type Bey is going to be anything used with the Hexa bit. Now, the Hexa bit launched at an angle is going to be far more aggressive than any other balance type bit. Launching the Hexa bit almost completely flat and level is the best option for any Bey equipped with the Hexa type bit. So all in all, when it comes to the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium, anything that has a very high aggression or a lot of mobility, you're going to want to try to launch it at an angle to kind of reserve that speed and that power, to kind of let it calm down in the stadium before it catches that extreme line. And at last, we now have the Takara Tomy Standard Xtreme Stadium. This is the most popular stadium that's going to be used in Beyblade X, and the most common stadium going to be seen in a Beyblade X tournament. The Takara Tomy standard sized Xtreme Stadium is almost the exact same as the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium, however the shape and the design is a little bit bigger, featuring a more square shape in comparison to the rectangular shape of the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium. Now this allows for it to have a more of a circular extreme line compared to the Hasbro's ovalish extreme line, which gives the Beys a greater distance of travel when it comes to the extreme line, and it also gives the Beys some more movement within the battle circumference. Now the size of the inner battle circle and the general area of battle does allow for your Beys to have more mobility in the stadium, which in return allows for you to be able to launch far harder and in most cases launch at your max power, and your Beys will still be fine without being too overpowered. Now, in comparison to the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium, the Takara Tomy Stadium does allow for you to be more experimental when it comes to your launch techniques and certain styles of blading. With this stadium, you are able to launch your attack Beys the correct way and maximize the full attack potential of the Beys. Furthermore, you're able to launch any other type of Beys in the desired locations as well as in the desired angles of the launch that you are most familiar with. Now, this is not saying that in the Takara Tomy Stadium you cannot overpower your Bey. Overpowering your Bey in the Takara Tomy Stadium is just as dangerous and just as common as it is in the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium. Overpowering your Beys in the Beyblade X Xtreme Stadium from Takara Tomy will cause your Bey to skip over and skip the gear marks on the extreme line, causing it to go out of control, which in turn will inevitably lead your Bey into self-destruction, whether it is loss of stamina, wringing itself out, bursting itself, or even giving itself an extreme finish, ultimately costing you the match, which is something you're going to want to avoid in Beyblade competitions. Overall, however, the Takara Tomy's Xtreme Stadium is the perfect stadium. Hands down, probably the best stadium Takara Tomy has ever released in general for Beyblade as a whole. So despite the other stadiums for Beyblade X being very good to use, the ultimate stadium you will want to always save up for and always get is going to be the standard Xtreme Stadium for Beyblade X. And now we're on to the third and the final stadium of the Beyblade X series, and that is going to be the giant stadium itself, the Wide Xtreme Stadium. Now at first with the Wide Xtreme Stadium, just looking at it, putting the size of it completely to the side, you'll notice that there are several big changes when it comes to the stadium. Now, along with the pockets completely being rearranged, where the pockets used to be in the standard Xtreme Stadium and even the Hasbro's Xtreme Stadium that were considered to be the overfinished pockets, here in the Wide Xtreme Stadium, these pockets are now going to be considered your extreme zones, your extreme pocket. and a large pocket in the front of the stadium is now going to be your over finish for the stadium. Now that is due to the simple shape of the stadium, making no sense and no general direction, being able to get your bay from the extreme dash and shoot it straight down the middle like in the standard Xtreme Stadium. Now launch techniques in this wide Xtreme Stadium is the most versatile of all the stadiums. In the wide Xtreme Stadium you could essentially just launch any bay any way you want. Now the whole function of this wide Xtreme Stadium, despite how large it is to be able to fit 3 or more players into one single battle for a battle royale. Battling a 1v1 in this kind of stadium right here with the wide Xtreme Stadium does not give you any distinct advantage, does not give you any type of training or further knowledge when it comes to launching, but this stadium does do phenomenal and is very great. When you do have more than one player out there, it does help you expand your wide range of knowledge when it comes to launching, and helps you understand a little bit better on what more you could do when it comes to countering not just one bay but 2 different types of bays. So the wide Xtreme Stadium is actually a very phenomenal stadium to be able to use, to be able to kind of train and practice, and not just practice, but practice against multiple different types of bays to kind of bring out not just your bay's full potential, but you yourself, a blader, bring out your own full potential when it comes to blading. So now you have the basic tools and understandings of Beyblade X. Now you know what Beyblade X is. You have now selected your very first Beyblade X and your team and your deck lineup. And furthermore, you have selected the launcher that best suits your blading style. And now you officially understand how each of the stadiums function. So what does that mean for you next as a blader, getting into Beyblade, just starting Beyblade X, or just wanting to take your career as a blader a step further? You are now officially to the point in your blading education in the Bey-Ducation series to where the best way to learn, now that you have understand the very fundamentals of Beyblade X, the best way to learn is to find yourself a competition and start competing. Now comment down below what your favorite Beyblade X stadium is so far from either Takara Tomy or Hasbro, and which stadium you guys actually prefer to use the most when it comes to practicing, training, or gearing yourself up for the next Beyblade X tournament. Now that is everything for this video. I do appreciate you guys attending class right here for the Bey-Ducation on Let's Spin Bays. To have no worries, there is still more Bey-Ducation coming. We have now officially finished and ended the beginners course. I'm going to be moving on more into the intermediate and the advanced courses. In the meantime, leave a like and leave a follow, and until next time, I'll see you guys in the next video.